Welcome to Finish First Financially. I've got a question from Reddit that I'm going to read and then I'll give my take on it, not financial investment advice. It says, my dad, 70, lost literally everything. Where does he go from here? My dad got scammed out of his 401k, his savings, and now he has 30,000 of debt he sent to consolidation. He's leaning on his wife right now, who makes $90,000 a year, good income, who may have 500,000 in the bank. The last job he tried to do this past week was also a scam, and we're working to get him away from the self-inflicted wounds. They pay 3,500 rent for a 3-bedroom, and it will last them 6 years at this rate. What advice can I give him? Where does he go from here to rebuild his wealth? I think he means the 500,000 will last them in savings will last them 6 years, if I understand what he's saying here correctly. I presume it's a he. All right. First of all, let me address the scam issue because that's a big problem. The fact that he's been exposed to these scams on several occasions, I think, is a big concerning point that really needs to be looked at. This is an area of concern that you need to get under control because it just seems to be happening to him over and over again. Now, these scammers, they usually tend to target elderly people. And it's in desperation that we make the biggest financial mistakes. So especially at that age, when your dad is 70 years old, he wants to obviously provide the best life left for him and his wife, and then also probably leave his inheritance to you. So it's in that panic, in that desire to create more, where we make stupid mistakes and we invest thinking that we're going to provide more money for ourselves, but then we actually end up losing everything. Now, there's certain signs that you need to look out for when it comes to scams. And the first one that's held true for all time is that when something is too good to be true, it usually is. And the way to recognize it in these scams is through the returns that they claim to provide. So they're going to offer these lavish returns that outperform the market, that really seem very desirable. And this is how they lure you in. They need to hook you in and to make you feel that your life is going to be much better if you invest with them. So that's the first thing. That's the major red flag that you need to look out for, is these over-the-top returns. That's apparently that they can somehow outperform the market. And they justify that in various ways. And one of the ways that they justify them outperforming the market is they claim to have developed some kind of algorithm or a trading bot that outperforms the markets. And this is how they can now provide all these returns to you. That is complete nonsense. If their trading algorithm or bot could outperform the markets, they would not need your money. They would just compound their earnings and then make a tremendous amount of money. You would not need to be in that equation, but it doesn't do that. This is where the scam comes in. The other thing that you need to look out for scams is these so-called pyramid schemes and these in types of investments is they usually take from Peter to pay Paul, and this is how it goes until eventually the money runs out, or they just stop the withdrawals and they take all of your money. But how do you find out that that's the type of investment that you could possibly get into? And the key telltale signs are by asking this company is, what is their product or service? If you go to a supermarket and you buy bread and you eat it, that's a product that you've bought. Or you hire a lawyer to represent you in court, that's a service that you've hired. So every legitimate company has either a product or a service or both. These scams, these pyramid investment companies, they do not have a product or a service. They don't want to invest any kind of money into that scam. They just want your money. So they never have a product or a service. So this is what you absolutely need to look out for, to help your dad and anybody else who's watching this before you get into these alluring investments that provide these so-called magnificent returns, look out for these red flags, ask these questions. That's extremely important. Now, as for your situation with your dad, but the fact that he's 70 and pretty much lost everything, like you claim, this is not the point of where you can now start rebuilding wealth. You have to go into survival mode. This is where he's at the moment. And luckily for him, he's got a wife who's making a good income and has quite a bit of savings. Apparently, you say she's got 500,000. Now, they live in a 3-bedroom home paying $3,500 rent. Why? For what reason? There's no need for them to be in a 3-bedroom home. They can, if they're on a month-to-month with this lease, or when the lease ends, they need to move out into a 1-bedroom if they plan to rent. Otherwise, if she has $500,000 in a bank account, they could consider buying a 1-bedroom place. Why pay rent when you can have a paid-off home? And they should still have a significant amount of money left after they purchase that home. So that's one of the things to consider. Obviously, at this stage, the fact that he's got nothing, he obviously is probably going to have to work part-time, try and look for a full-time job, but at the very least part-time. And look out for these things. Don't let him get into these kinds of messes. And he has to really cut down on all of his expenses, trim to the very bottom. There's no, no going out for vacations, no going out to eat, none of that stuff. He has to live on the bare essentials so that he can have a comfortable life till the end of his life. Now, if you want to learn more about how to reduce your expenses, how to pay off your debt quickly, and how to save for your retirement, you can check out my book, From Homeless to Debtless with Savings. I'll put a link in the description below the video, and I wish you all the best.